boy was throwing, boy.
Roach came up. Roach normally fights at 130. He came up to 135.
Hey, listen, they got a rematch. They got a rematch. That fight was good. And obviously, I've seen a lot of boxers come out and say, Tank lost. When I looked at the scorecard, I think maybe going into round 7, maybe 7 or 8, maybe 7, I think Tank was up on the scorecard.
I expected to see a knockout. I expected to see it come at the hands of Gervonta Tank Davis against a dude that I thought was undersized, that I thought was not on the same level.
Roach is not just your average everyday opponent. Roach is the person who knows Tank, who's been around Tank his whole life. This is a different fight. You can't put Roach to the side.
ESPN analysts such as Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp have weighed in on the upcoming rematch between Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach. Both expressed surprise that their initial bout ended in a draw rather than a knockout. They anticipate the rematch will deliver a more decisive outcome, as each fighter is expected to make strategic adjustments to demonstrate who truly deserves the win.
I expected to see a knockout. I expected to see it come at the hands of Gervonta Tank Davis against a dude that I thought was undersized, that I thought was not on the same level. And my God, was I wrong. So I thought it was apropos that on this particular day, more than a week after Lamont Roach showed up at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, and let everybody know, yo, I'm no joke either. Y'all don't know who the hell I am. I'm here to reintroduce him to the world. A guy that many believe should be the lightweight champion of the world in the sport of boxing, the one and only Lamont Roach.
In the first fight, Lamont Roach showcased an outstanding performance, displaying sharp skills and a well-calculated strategy. Despite the match ending in a draw, he proved he belongs among the elite, competing at the highest level. Heading into the rematch, Roach has the chance to fine-tune his approach, emphasizing speed and precision to secure a clear victory. By making subtle adjustments and staying composed, he can deliver a commanding performance. His ability to adapt and build on the lessons from their initial encounter will be key to demonstrating his superiority and solidifying an undeniable win in the highly anticipated rematch.
That next game, what do you do that you didn't do the first time? Is that a valid question?
Well, I don't know if he pitched a shutout, but he definitely fought a perfect
game.
Perfect fight for him. For that fight, right? So above and beyond what we've ever seen from him, something that people who knew him and knew him personally knew that he has that in him, but being able to do it on the big stage underneath those lights, that's a whole different thing. He was able to do it. It was packed in there. It was 19,000. I was in the room. I mean, they were literally booing him when he was on the Megatron above the ring. So for him to walk into hostile territory, perform the way that he performed from beginning to end, I mean, I tip my hat. It was amazing. But in terms of pitching a shutout, I don't agree. It was a very, very close fight.
No, but what I mean by that is the perfect fight. Can he elevate from that?
Yeah. No, I absolutely understand. So in terms of can he elevate his performance? Yes and no. I don't think he can do anything that he was once he really found his rhythm better, because I think that was literally his catch and shoot, his rolling, his ability to catch those punches, his mindset when he did get touched, his ability to walk through. But I think he can be a little smarter in the way that he cuts off the quadrants of a 12-rounder. Understanding what a 12-rounder and how to fight a 12-rounder is a skill that takes time. You have to go 12 a bunch of times. You have to be world-class guys. Being able to be a little busier for early on to make sure that you understand that you are the B-side. You need to make sure these judges absolutely know without a doubt in their mind that you won that round. Being a little more aggressive early on, letting the hands go a little earlier, putting the exclamation on the points in the early rounds the way they did it the later rounds, I think will make a big difference in how he could actually improve on what he did.
Stephen A. Smith openly admitted he misjudged Lamont Roach, stating that everyone owes him an apology. Initially, Smith believed Roach was too small to effectively compete against Gervonta Davis. However, he was stunned to see Roach not only hold his own but also appear and fight like the larger, more dominant fighter. Throughout the bout, Roach maintained relentless aggression, absorbing Davis's strongest punches and consistently firing back with his own.
The team right back. I'm believing him. I didn't see him hurt or anything like that. I get that part. I saw him hurt when he got popped with a counter from Lamont Roach and he stumbled backwards because he got hit with a shot while throwing a punch in an earlier round. So I'm certainly not going to do that. Here's the important point to mention. All of us got to stand down and give Lamont Roach an apology. I thought that brother was going to get beat down because I saw a dude that was a bantamweight champion. I said, why are you moving up to fight this guy? Why is Gervonta Davis taking this fight? This guy's too small. What the hell is going on? He was a featherweight champion. You're a lightweight. What the hell is going on? Why would you take that fight? I didn't understand it. What I didn't know is that once Lamont Roach stepped into the ring, he would be the bigger fighter. What I didn't know is that once he was in the ring and he looked like the bigger fighter, he fought like the bigger fighter because, ladies and gentlemen, from opening bell, he walked right to Gervonta Davis. Walked right to him and stayed in his face all night long. If he backed up at all, ladies and gentlemen, it was 5% of the time.
In their first fight, Lamont Roach exposed a recurring issue in Gervonta "Tank" Davis's career, his tendency to carefully select opponents. For years, Tank has faced criticism for allegedly cherry-picking fights that play to his strengths while sidestepping tougher challenges. However, this time, his strategy backfired. Roach arrived fully prepared, demonstrating that he was far from an easy opponent. He showcased his discipline and strategic prowess, proving that Tank's usual tactics would not suffice against a skilled and determined fighter like himself.
That fight with Tank and Lamont Roach shows y'all how protected Tank has been for the past several years. And the people saying, oh, Tank know Lamont and he disrespected Lamont because they fought in the amateurs. Man, he was cherry picking Lamont, you know, and really thought he was gonna get that win. But Lamont wasn't coming to play around. You know, he stood his ground and fought back. And to be honest, he won the fight. The rematch is going to be a knockout.
Shakur Stevenson broke down Lamont Roach's performance, highlighting how effectively Roach executed his game plan. Having previously sparred with Roach, Stevenson had first-hand insight into his skills and was confident in his abilities. This confidence led Stevenson to place a bet on Roach to win the fight. While acknowledging Gervonta "Tank" Davis's undeniable speed, Stevenson noted that Roach's exceptional defense was key to countering Tank's offense, turning the bout into a highly competitive and closely contested match.
Both saying, like, you know, that's something that y'all would do. You sparred Lamont before, right?
For sure, yeah. Actually, he was the one who got me ready for Oscar Valdez.
Oh, Lamont Roach did?
Yeah, Lamont Roach was the guy who really got me ready for that fight.
What was the work like?
It was good work. It was good work. You know, honestly, that was one of the reasons why I bet tonight. Because I knew what I was in the ring with. Like, I knew that he wasn't no pushover, he wasn't no slouch. And when I seen that, I said, okay, when he fight Tank, I know that it's going to be the fight that I assumed it to be honest.
Hold on, because you was saying that, I ain't gonna lie, you was on Twitter been saying, like, you feel like, I don't know, you didn't say Lamont was going to win, but you just kept making it like, you know what I'm saying? I don't even know what you were saying, but you kept alluding to Lamont was going to do something. So, like, you saying you seen this, the way the fight played out based on how your sparring session went?
I'm not going to say how the sparring session went just because of the fact that I'm a different fighter than what Tank is.
Yeah.
And it's like sparring and fighting two different things. But I knew what I was up against when I was sparring him. Like, I knew the skill level. And I also, like, I watch boxing, so I go back and watch. And these guys go back and watch, and they looking like, okay, well, he was in front of this guy, so it was this, but styles make fights. And I know that Tank is shorter. He's fast, but Lamont got good defense. And I just knew exactly how that fight was gonna go. I told everybody that Lamont was going to be the one pushing forward. Tank was going to be the boxer, and it literally looked exactly how I thought it was going to look.
How did you see the actual fight? Like, let's break it down, because you was ringside. You sat. I saw you on Twitter. They showed the videos of you ringside.
Stevenson went on to explain that Tank's performance in the fight lacked the usual spark, describing his style as uninspiring. While Tank did have a few notable moments, Stevenson argued that Roach held the overall advantage. He emphasized that Roach was more precise and consistent with his offense, building a compelling argument for why he deserved the win. Although Tank managed to land some heavy shots, Stevenson believed they weren't sufficient to decisively shift the momentum in his favor.
Winning, I really felt like he was in control of the fight. I think Tank had good moments, But I feel like when he was boxing boring, he was more so in control. That's when he was kind of like in control of the fight for me. And when he kind of like tried to fight, I felt like Lamont was on point.
A rematch between Tank and Roach appears highly probable, especially since Tank has openly expressed interest in running it back. However, it remains unclear if this will be his next immediate fight. Tank has other opponents on his radar and might prioritize redeeming himself in a different matchup before stepping into the ring with Roach again. Regardless, whenever the rematch takes place, Tank will undoubtedly aim to reclaim his dominance after the surprising and humbling outcome of their first bout.
Wasn't wilding like usual, right?
Yeah.
And the rematch, he'll be able to prove himself. I don't really believe there was a reason to call out a knockdown if you don't call Roach's shit a knockdown as well. They both was on the knee, pause. They both took a knee. So it cancels each other's out. It's either both are knockdowns or none. And neither are, so what we talking about?
Nah,
They definitely hate Tank. That part is a fact.
Nah,
I don't. I'm saying
I'm not
in
saying
general.
us.
In general.
I'm just saying, like, couldn't wait.
He got to Mayweather level where people hate him.
When you do well enough, people look for you
Success breeds
to.
that.
Yeah,
that's good.
Success breeds that. When you
That's a
it's
fact.
either they love you or they hate you. There's no in-betweens. No longer indifferent for you because everyone knows you.
Jiren Ennis points out that the reaction to Gervonta Tank Davis's performance has been heavily influenced by public perception. Many fans hold strong opinions about Tank's persona, which may be coloring their judgment of the fight. While some critics are quick to condemn him, they often overlook his dominant start in the early rounds, choosing instead to focus on his challenges later in the match. This has ignited discussions about whether the criticism is truly warranted or if it stems more from personal bias than an objective evaluation of his performance.
I gotta ask about fights. Gervonta Davis, draw with Lamont Roach. People looking at it as controversial because of the whole knee. What'd you think of the fight?
It was a great fight, you know. I had it 7-5 Tank, or you can make it a draw, but I feel like Lamont, he did good. He did a great job, actually. You know, I just don't think he did enough to pull it off. You know, and I feel like people was overlooking what Tank was doing in the first like 5-6 rounds. You know, he was like boxing and frustrating him a little bit. You know, but Lamont, like I said before, Lamont did a great job. You know.
Yeah, some people had it Tank, some people had it draw, some people had it Lamont. Do you think Tank gets a lot of criticism for not knocking Lamont out and Lamont not being a big name, so they overblow it?
I think so, yeah, and I feel like people just don't like Tank to a point where any...
Andis emphasizes that while Tank didn't dominate the fight as some had anticipated, his strong start in the early rounds should not be overlooked. The conversation around the bout has shifted, becoming as much about Tank's reputation as it is about his performance in the ring. The rematch presents an opportunity for him to quiet his critics and reaffirm his status as one of the elite fighters in the division.
Overblow it?
I think so, yeah, and I feel like people just don't like Tank to a point where any little thing, just because he ain't knock him out, he probably feel like as though that he lost and he didn't, or it was a draw. You know, I feel like Tank was doing a lot of smart things in the beginning, moving a little bit too much, but I feel like he was still like frustrating and things like that. And I think Tank did a good job. Like, he looked sharp to me, and I don't know, people just be talking. You know, at the end of the day, you can't please everybody.
Boxing legend Roy Jones Jr. shared his thoughts on the fight, praising Lamont Roach's skills and experience. Jones stressed that Roach is not a fighter to be taken lightly, having known him for years and witnessing his dedication and talent firsthand. According to Jones, Roach has always possessed the ability to compete at an elite level, and his performance against Tank only solidified that belief. However, Jones acknowledged that not everyone is convinced Roach did enough to secure the win in their first encounter.
Presumably, Tank is supposed to, win this fight. This is a fight that there's not a lot of doubt about him coming out victorious in. So the talk shifts, and we got to know, Roy, from your perspective, Tank Shakur. When you think about that fight being a potential fight this year, how do you see it going?
I ain't gonna really think about that yet because I'm waiting after he finishes his fight with Roach. Roach is not just your average everyday opponent. Roach is the person who knows Tank, who's been around Tank his whole life. This is a different fight. You can't put Roach to the side like that. I'm sorry. Now, I'm not saying that he's gonna win the fight. I don't know that, but Roach cannot be this underrated like that. You understand? You gotta understand that Roach came from basically the same ecosystem as Tank came from. Roach is a very formidable opponent. So I'm not going to talk about none of that till we get by Roach, because what I'm telling you about the other stuff don't really mean nothing right now.
Okay, let me ask you this, because this didn't happen.
I'm feeling good always. How you doing?
I'm always good. You're a special fighter. Tank's a special fighter. What do you like about him? What makes him different?
I like that when Tank come to fight, Tank come to knock you out. Tank don't come to just beat you by decision. He come to take you out. He come to try to get the job done best way he can. And he loves to come there and entertain the fans. He's not there to play around. He's trying to smoke you. And that's what life's supposed to be about.
Gary Russell Jr. shared his perspective, stating that he didn't believe Lamont Roach had clearly distinguished himself from Tank in their fight. In Russell's view, Roach competed on an even level but fell short of doing enough to convincingly dethrone the champion. Russell emphasized that to secure a decisive victory against a fighter of Tank's caliber, Roach would need to outbox him more definitively, a level of dominance he felt Roach didn't fully achieve in their first meeting.
He's 100% correct. Personally, I had Gervonta Davis up a round. Because whenever you have rounds where nobody's doing anything, I'm not just going to do what most people do. And especially people that don't like Gervonta Davis, which is just give the round to the other guy because Gervonta Davis didn't manage to knock him out that round. Okay, so this is Gary Russell Jr. clearly saying, man, no, I don't think Lamont Roach won that fight. You also had Al Bernstein, and Al Bernstein, I'm telling you, is a very, very straight, fair guy who I don't know if he was on that call, but he used to work with Showtime. I don't know if he was on there. I don't recall if I heard him. I think it was Rolly Ronaldo that was calling it. But Al Bernstein, who was a very, very objective person, said, hey, look, no. Sorry to break it to you, but Gervonta Davis won that fight. Yeah, Lamont Roach put up a really good fight, but Lamont Roach was not dynamic. He did not do anything to really separate himself from Gervonta Davis. He just kept it equal. He just tried to keep it even the entire fight. And that's not enough, again, to take the belt from the champion. Now, I do want to say that the people that thought that Lamont Roach won, I don't have any problem with that. I really don't have a problem with it at all. I personally, again, had a point for Gervonta Davis, but I can see how those swing rounds really could go, depending on who's looking at it, really could go different ways, right? But I had him winning. Larry Hazard, who was the ref, who was calling it on the air.
Before Tank can turn his attention to a rematch with Roach, he has other commitments to address. Boxing schedules and promotional negotiations often delay immediate rematches, meaning Tank might need to face another opponent first before revisiting the Roach fight. A prime example of this is the situation between Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney, where an immediate rematch was postponed due to prior obligations and other fights taking precedence.
We're in a situation where we're going to hopefully get a rematch. Gervonta already had something scheduled, or at least negotiated. And I think Lamont Roach was already entering negotiations with Shakur Stevenson to get it done, right? So Gervonta can exercise a rematch clause. He does have a rematch clause, but again, I just don't really know whether or not that is going to take place, whether or not that's going to take place next. And as I've said in other videos, they don't always happen next. Sometimes, like for example, Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, they're not running it back. Devin Haney has not had a fight since he lost to Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia has not had a fight since he beat Devin Haney and then he got it turned over with Osterine.
Tank's coach, Calvin Ford, shared his perspective on the fight, noting that Tank wasn't fully focused during the bout, which impacted his performance. Ford also highlighted the history between Tank and Roach, suggesting that Roach's familiarity with Tank's style worked to his advantage. This prior knowledge allowed Roach to anticipate and effectively counter Tank's moves, contributing to the tightly contested and controversial outcome.
Him take his game to another level. What didn't he do in this fight that you felt he could have done and whatnot, and pretty much opened the fight up to being a draw?
Well, like I said again, they've been knowing each other since they were learning. Roach, he stepped up for the cause. He stepped up. You know what I'm saying? And again, Tank history. I always sit there and tell you I don't like knockouts, I like punishment. You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes things got to happen to make you get back to where you belong at. You know what I'm saying? And that was a good, skillful ass fight. Skillful. Both of them went take certain chances. Some of them take chances. You know what I'm saying? We seen. It was like we was on a boat and it was just like this.
That wraps up today's video. Be sure to stay tuned for more updates, and we'll catch you next time.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more exciting videos, make sure to hit the bell icon and stay updated. Subscribe to Boxing Hub now for all the latest in boxing.